Okay. Okay. So, greetings everyone. This is Harshal, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our audience and guests to the final talk session of exam series, in which we'll be focusing on the exam GRE. So, about myself, my name is Harshal Bhatt, and I'm a alumni secretary at SARC, and I will be hosting this talk session with the alumni, Mr. Garvit Goyal. Okay, so I would like to start off with the introduction. So, hi Garvit. So, about him, um, introducing him. Uh, so Mr. Garvit is a alumni of the batch 2020, and he's a BTech from the Civil Engineering Department of IIT Bombay. And then he's pursuing his MS in Computational Science and Engineering from Georgia Tech. So Mr. Garvit gave his GRE exam in 2020, and he scored 331 marks out of 340, uh, which is very notable. And
Thank you.
so, uh, coming along, today we mostly have our audience is mostly the freshers, and so about it. So, could you just give a brief intro about the GRE exam and what's it all about? And can you also just give a brief intro, like the what you're currently um, pursuing, and just a bit more intro about you?
Sure. So, firstly, thank you for the introduction. And there should be a correction. Like, I'm not pursuing MS right now. I completed my master's last year in December. So I'm currently working. I'm currently working at a traffic consultancy firm. So that works at the intersection of traffic engineering and computer science. And during my civil engineering undergrad, I had developed interest in transportation engineering and had tried to use like ML methods usually in transportation, as I guess some of you might be doing. I hope so, maybe in other fields. And so that piqued my interest. Then I got admitted into civil engineering program at Georgia Tech. But then after during first semester, I realized that there is a possibility of me converting to computational science. So that's basically a joint degree between computer science and College of Engineering. And that's how I transitioned. So, and right now my job is focusing on using computer science principles in traffic engineering and transportation planning and all that, because conventionally, most of the folks in my industry are from a civil engineering background. But if like there's lots of data, big data, etc., so they need computer science. They can use computer science techniques, methods, and all that to to put it mildly, fast pace their process. So, okay, that's enough about the introduction. And let me know if you want to know anything else. I'll be happy to talk about that. About GRE. So GRE is, I believe, situation has changed a bit during COVID. So I gave my GRE during COVID, which was in 2020. And when I was giving the GRE, some universities had started making GRE optional. So that changes a few things, as some of you might know already. But So my undergrad, I was more focused in research, less on acads. So that's why GRE was, even if it was optional, but some universities were still accepting that. So I gave the GRE anyway after preparation because I believe that that might improve my profile. So that was my main motivation. And if any of you feel that your profile might not be, I mean, we feel that we are worst critics, so we might feel that. But if you guys feel that, then GRE, and if the university is accepting GRE, so I would highly recommend going for it. At least give it a shot. And since we are from engineering background, so at least it's not that difficult. Um, and the other thing is that is, and let me know if I want if you guys want me to stop for that.
So, you mentioned your motivation. What was your motivation to give GRE? So, I'd like to know why specifically you decided to pursue your MS from uh, foreign universities. What was that motivated you to pursue it from outside and not to pursue it as the MTech in India instead?
So I think that answer would be somewhat specific to my civil engineering, but I would try to give a holistic perspective. Um, Civil engineering in India and in US is quite different. I'm not sure about other fields, but so during my undergrad, I felt that like the course content we were covering, etc., and the course content I reviewed online. So I believe that especially US has more like I could get better exposure to the field, and uh, much better opportunities exist in US. And to get into the job industry, I think MS is a conventional and a easy, somewhat easier way. So that was my primary motivation to get into the job industry here. Other reason was because I wanted to pursue research and in computer science, and I believe that um, Georgia Tech and a few other universities offer a more flexible curriculum to pursue both the fields while in academics. So that was my another reason.
Okay. So coming to my next question. I'd like to know that how you decided like what role does GRE play? Like many students are interested to apply for universities for it. So what role does GRE plays uh, when it comes to applying for grad schools abroad? Like you mentioned, recently some things have changed after COVID as well. So I'd like to know more.
Sure. I can expand on the answer. So now like that's what I've heard from um, people that more and more universities are putting GRE as optional. It's a personal preference. I believe that when I was a student, when I was in third year and final year, I'll admit that I wanted to do a PhD instead of MS because I thought that PhD won't require GRE. And honestly, I was scared of giving GRE because that's a competitive exam. But then I later realized that PhD anyways has GRE, so I have to give it. So that was the honest answer. But I really believe that we should, given like 2 or 3 months of preparation, we could really excel at the exam. And if you could do that, then that improves your profile. And about the optional thing, so there are two classes of universities right now. Some which have removed the GRE requirement, so they don't accept GRE scores. Now that we can do nothing about it. But there are a few universities who still accept GRE, but that's not a compulsory requirement, which earlier was. Before COVID, it was a compulsory requirement. And I believe GRE also has, so um, I think we can talk more about this when you ask, when you might cover. Are you going to cover the admission process and all that later in your questions?
Yeah, a bit in the end.
Okay, so then
So
we
yeah,
can.
we can discuss it towards the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So next, we'd like to can you please uh, share with our audience a bit more about the pattern of the GRE exam, and a bit about its format, like how the questions come and more about like in which section it is divided and all. So yeah.
Sure. GRE has three sections. Yes, three sections: analytical, verbal, and quantitative. Analytical section doesn't is not what it sounds. Analytical section is more writing ability based. So they give you two prompts. One is analyze an argument, and another is analyze an issue, if I'm not wrong. And you have to write like an essay on both of them. So it's like you get 30 minutes and you have to write two essays. So that's not, uh, it's more of an impromptu thing. So, but the good part is, good or bad, depending on the person, that that score is not included in the total. Like, so the exam is out of 340. So 170 quant, 170 verbal, and the GRE is scored out of 6, I think. So that score is separate from the 340 score. And some universities uh, like put a huge emphasis on the analytical score. Other universities just like they should cross a bare minimum, which is 3. And 3 score is basically tied in with like basic grammar, if your spellings are correct, if your grammar is correct, etc. So, and they don't have a Word document. It's a very plain text editor. So you don't have the autocorrect spelling, grammar, all that. So that's the key part of acing that section. Then quantitative is covers, I think, up to class 10 maths. So it's like percentages, ratio proportion, basic algebra, geometry, etc. So not the JE level, a bit below JE level. So, and I think they asked 25 questions in 35 minutes, which is close to JEE mains, close to JEE mains, but for much easier questions, simply. And it's up to class 10 maths, so you just need practice, like just practice. If you grind the questions thorough enough, you can get very quick at it. The third section, verbal, that's, I think that's the toughest section for us, at least it's for me. I can't speak for everybody. It was for me because that has first part is vocabulary. So we have to learn about, okay, and my intention is not to scare people, but it's like consistency is the key there. So if you um, pace yourselves comfortably, then vocabulary is the main issue. And if you pace yourselves quite well with a proper planning, then it won't be an issue. So it's just memorizing. So it's nothing we have not done before. So if you have mastered vocabulary, then grammar is not that major part. And grammar is, I believe, um, we have quite good grammar in after schooling. So then it's then logic. So it's nothing out of the blue. It's just logic plus vocabulary. That's how I would break it down. And yes, they ask about 25 questions in 30 minutes because it's English. So yeah, those are the three sections.
Okay, so as you said, so the GRE exams is a bit different from the our and the entrance examinations that we have in our nation. So I'd like to know which resources and references did you count on, like that you felt were necessary while preparing for these as well, and which might help our audience, to prepare efficiently for the same.
Sure. So I really believe that it varies with it varies with individuals. Now I know that's not a very helpful answer, but I try to give the reasons behind my choice of sources. So as I mentioned, I'll start with quant because that's the easy part. So that needs just class 10 maths. I'm not saying just take out the class 10 maths books and revise them. Don't do that. But there are some resources, books, which you just need to grind through um, and build up speed in that. There are some tricks, like they might not feel like tricks, but they are actually tricks if you look at them like they are. So, okay, a very trivial trick is like if you have to take percentage of 25 or maybe a very ugly number, then you interchange the numbers to perform multiplication easier. You approximate the calculations, just what we did in GRE, just what we did in GE, the physical chemistry part. So that knowledge, that experience comes very handy. So I'll name the resources. So for quantitative, Manhattan publishes okay, so Manhattan publishes 8 volumes. I think 6 are for quant and 2 are for verbal. The verbal is harder as compared to GRE, and it's not that harder. Like, okay, so we have a habit of going like, okay, the exam is at 100, I'll prepare for 150, so I'll score 100. Don't do that for verbal. It's not needed. It will give you anxiety, like I can't do this. So for verbal, I wouldn't recommend. But for quant, because that's a strong suit, so I would recommend that going for Manhattan. So go through 6 volumes. They might seem trivial on reading, but they are not a very long read. So I would recommend going through them thoroughly, because there are some concepts, there are some formula or tricks which we might have overlooked during schooling, but they can be pretty handy. And then after completing those 6 volumes, there's Manhattan. I believe it's £3 or yeah, £3 practice problem book. So that's a very big book of like chapter-wise problems, like I think 40, 50 problems per chapter, and that's just basically grinding through that. So I think that was enough for my quant. For verbal, so there are 2 sections here, and I will take time here to explain. I hope you guys don't mind. Um, so verbal has 2 parts, vocabulary and the logical part. For vocabulary, I would recommend going through GRE flashcards, which are again published by Manhattan. Now, I am not being sponsored by Manhattan here. I just found it to be a good resource. So Manhattan publishes 2 sets of flashcards. One is basic flashcards and one is advanced flashcards. And each of the sets has 500 words. So I would recommend going through them. First basic, and then if you guys have time, if you people feel like you have time and you're retaining the basic part, then you can move on to advanced. Uh, Then, okay, a bit about flashcards. I didn't know what are flashcards. You might know, but I'll just say that. So it's just like a physical card which has on one side there's the word, and if it's a noun or a verb, because the meanings change if it's a noun or if it's a verb. But on the back side of it, it's definition and its usage. I believe I found usage to be pretty helpful to memorize the meaning, because definitions I don't love memorizing, so that was not a good way. Okay, then coming to logical part, there's a person or a teacher who I'm not sure what his real name is, but he posts videos as Greg Matt, GREGMAT, very apt name, GRE plus GMAT. He has like I really liked his teaching style, and he has his own like website, and he posts his online classes, his recordings of his online classes. He has been doing this for a few years, so there are like multiple versions of the same content, and I found him pretty good. So I would recommend going through them for the logical part. By logical, I mean apart from vocabulary, whatever there is to crack verbal section. I believe I termed it as logical part. So I would recommend going through that. And for analytical, again, the same person has videos for analytical. I don't think that requires too much practice, because it's just impromptu thinking. So you just need to take care of spellings, grammars, and all that. But I think that takes about a week to complete. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope the audience would have took a note of these resources, and they'll prove to be very useful for their future use. And so, coming to the next part, I believe that having a good profile also plays an important role in a good GRE score. So, I would like to know, uh, how would you recommend someone to build a good, robust profile, as uh, it plays one of the key roles in determining a good GRE scores for admission.
Okay. Just a note on my previous answer. If you guys did not expect such a detailed answer, you did not write that down, feel free to bug me on LinkedIn. I won't mind that. Um, Now, okay, about the robust profile. Um, so I think so. This answer is based on my experience and the people I met after coming here. I believe it varies among fields. So in computer science, I don't think people like majority of people are doing research, or up to I might be wrong here. But research is not necessary in that field. If you have good industrial experience / research experience, so this can be substituted, and that um, like yeah, that depends on what you want to pursue. Like if you want to pursue an industrial career after completing your MS, then research experience might not be that important for your profile. Like the admission council will look at your industrial experience and if you've applied your methods and how do you showcase your skills. That's the most important part. Um, okay, and for civil engineering, which I did, I had more focus on research from like my second year onwards. So my profile was mainly focused on was mainly resting on research experience. I did not have prior industrial experience. So the like past internships, like excellent internships, are not necessary to get into good universities. They are just, or I might be just an exception. But that is not necessary. So please don't feel discouraged to do that. So you can, if you don't have internship experience, I would recommend getting a good research experience, a good GRE score. Try to push your CGPA. Yeah, that's what you want. It's some CPI, right?
CPI.
Yeah, CPI. Okay, so try to push your CPI as high as you can. I tried very hard in my final year, and but it was not a very it was not above 9. That's what I would say. But I think universities, it varies among like university boards, how do they view a candidate, but I believe those combinations, that is the combination. The factors might get prioritized differently across universities.
Okay. So I'd like to ask, what do you think is the right time to start for the preparation, and what is the best time to give GRE? And like, at what point of time did you started off with the preparation in a like took it in a serious way more, and like I need to do this right now? So, and what would you recommend? Like, students should start off at.
Okay, I would put the serious phrase in bold because I honestly started preparation in April, I think. So yeah, one thing. I did not expect to get into like a good university when I was in my final year because I was way too focused in acads. So I did not give GRE while I was studying. So I took, and there was COVID, and so universities were anyways offering virtual classes. So those factors added up. So I ended up taking a gap year after BTech. So that this might vary, but I think people can take like their estimates. So I believe I started preparation in May, but the serious preparation started in August because I scheduled my exam in October. So I believe 2 or 3 months time is enough if you're putting in at least 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day. And this mileage will vary across people. But you just need to set a target and just it's a very like it's a very divisible thing. So if you have 1,000 problems, you can set, okay, I'll do 200 problems a day, and that would complete in 10 days. So that's how it goes. So you need to come up with, okay, this I can solve, I can cover this much portion, and then that's how you pace yourself across time because I believe people have different availabilities of time for this.
So I believe you did your preparation in a self manner, right?
Yes.
But there would be some students. So do you? What are your thoughts on having additional help or coaching for like some sections, like for if someone is not very comfortable with a section or so? So do you think additional coaching is required for it? Yeah, you can get resources online and you can prepare yourself for it. So I'd like to know your thoughts on it.
Sure, sure. So I'll start with verbal. So I mentioned Greg Matt. He's also like it's like a coaching, but it's online. They have recorded classes, etc. So I believe I needed coaching for verbal. That's just a coaching, but it was not in India. The other part, quantitative, I believe that the closest you can get to GRE is CAT. Now that's a monster. So don't go full throttle on that, but I believe that's the closest part. So yeah, I guess that's the answer. And for analytical, I think don't sweat too much about it. I think that's a week or two is enough for that.
Okay. So when you started off your preparation after May, as you said, uh, how did you manage between your academics and the preparations for preparation for exams? There might be a lot of things going on with your regular semester, and how did you manage that in your experience?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I had completed, oh no, yeah, I was doing a BTP. Yes. So I think it again ties in with JE experience. So as we in J during JE, a majority of us had coachings from the major portion of the day, and we had our 6 or 7 hours to like complete the homework, etc. So that is very similar to what I think is a good way to approach this exam. Like you need to be serious, but you need to manage the time. So I believe setting aside 4 to 5 hours a day is enough for this. I had my BTP going on, BTP and a few other courses, and I was pushing for CPI. So, but I still try to be consistent. Consistency is the key here, especially with vocabulary, because I would be amazed, but I don't think 500 words can be learned in a few weeks. It took me about 3 months to do that because I learned about 5 words a day. Because that I believe that was my retention capacity. Like I wouldn't forget what I'm learning. Um, does that answer your question?
Okay. So um, uh, coming to my next question, is GRE and TOEFL both compulsory for applying for MS abroad? So, and what about IELTS? Like these all are, I think, examination for your English proficiency to determine your English proficiency. So, uh, like, I'd like to know that if the university is it a requirement for you applying for exam?
Okay, so first GRE. So GRE was compulsory before COVID, but now it's optional. Um, it's a matter of personal preference, but yeah, it varies with universities. I think if you um, have universities on your mind, like, okay, these are the universities I want to apply to after you have narrowed down your choices. So then if you think that all universities, none of the universities are have the GREs compulsory, then you don't need to go through that uh, grind. But if even if one of the universities is asking for it and it's a good university, I would recommend going for it because I don't think I really believe that it's a very easy way to improve your profile. So I would highly recommend going for it. Now, for IELTS and TOEFL, those are English proficiency exams. So they are also required by visa and your university. So they are compulsory, like either of them. I gave IELTS just for reference.
Okay. Uh, so coming to the last few questions. So I think you have explained this before, but can you share more about like how did you choose your subject in the first year, and then you also mentioned that you got an opportunity to change it into a different one after your first year. So I'd like to know, can you share, okay, uh, how did you like decide, okay, like I should apply for this course or another degree after the first year or in the first year as well?
There were a couple of factors. It was not a straightforward decision. I don't think anything is, but it was not a straightforward decision. So I had research experience in computer science, but I believed I was self-taught during final year. Like um, I studied blogs, books, and all that to get myself up to speed with the subject. But so that was my major motivation to go through a formal training in computer science and go through subjects, go through courses, do all the assignments, do everything formal which is required. Um, that was my major motivation. The other thing was because of my interest. I believe that if I'm getting the opportunity, I would rather take a shot at it. Um, Luckily, I got the opportunity. The third point was the civil engineering courses at Georgia Tech, or I don't know other universities, but for Georgia Tech at least, they were more focused on the conventional core civil engineering, which they should be. I'm not blaming them, which they should be, but I believe that they did not give too much, like that much of an opportunity for me to use computer science. So that was my third motivation.
Okay. um, so um, uh, many of our audience and the students would still be confused about choosing their universities when they finally apply. for exam, and apart from them, also deciding like which university to apply for. QS ranking is, feel many students look up to it, and for deciding which university is stands where. And so uh, I'd like to hear it from you. Like, how would you choose universities on the basis of ranking, and would you rate a university more based on its overall ranking or a subject wise ranking in your preference?
Okay. Think we should do a time check. So how much time do we have left for the session?
Uh, we have a while, so maybe
Sorry, I
20.
didn't hear you. 20
Uh,
minutes.
yeah,
Okay. And how many questions are remaining?
just a few more. Then we'll
Okay.
be having a few more from the audience, and yeah,
Okay. I'll try to keep this short.
okay.
Um, so there are a couple of rankings in the market. There's QS ranking, there's
Yes.
Higher Education, and there's, okay, I don't remember any of them, but I remember seeing a lot of rankings for any university, breaks ranking and all those. Um, QS ranking is good, not just because it's advertised a lot, because it weighs in a lot of factors. If you go in the, like, every ranking has a breakdown of factors they assessed and the weightage and all that, and you can go full maths, full engineering on it and break down the factors, get your own custom ranking. I did that. There's not a shame in doing that. I did that. So QS is good, and I would recommend that going through subject rankings, because it varies, like, not, except MIT, of course, not every university, if it's ranked higher overall, then it has like excellent facilities in every department. So I would recommend going through a department. But there's a major catch is the subject rankings do not cover all the branches. So like for civil engineering, so I was trying for transportation engineering. They did not have any field for transportation. They just had civil and architectural. That's a very wide field. It basically combines an architecture and civil department, not discounting the fact that civil engineering in itself is made up of 5 or 6 branches. So take that with a pinch of salt. Other than that, Times Higher Education is a good ranking because I believe they had like multiple factors. And apart from these are just numbers. I would highly recommend going through universities' faculties, their research profiles, and if you believe that a faculty's research, a faculty's work, and this might need a little bit of digging, but like where the alumni are working right now, that that should be the priority one factor in assessing the universities. And again, I would also recommend going like about 10 to 12 universities at least. Like, I think you guys might know this, like 3 to 4 ambitious, 2 or 3 moderate, 3 or 4 safe, because I want to go to the US or I want to go to the UK, whatever. Um, and yeah, don't go just by ranking. Please don't go just by ranking. That's just a number. That's a very general idea. And you need to think on like what the department offers, how the alumni are, etc. Talk to the people, because university might look very good on numbers, might look very good on paper, but please talk to the alumni, reach out to alumni. Everyone is happy to flex about the universities. So reach out to them, they'll help you.
I feel you explained it beautifully. So I'll probably consider that for me as well, right? It's like really important while you're choosing if you want to pursue higher studies. So like you explained the process quite well. So I'd like to ask you, are there any scholarship opportunities which are available abroad based on one's GRE scores or any other scores as well? Or any other opportunities for which students can apply for?
Okay, there are a couple of ways to get funded. If you're talking about funding, I think you're talking about funding, right? During masters.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So one is scholarships. Scholarships are both like offered by some Indian organizations. I don't believe I don't think I don't know if organization is the correct term, but let's use that because I don't believe none of them are here attending this. Um, so there are a couple of Indian organizations which offer merit scholarship based on merit, and that's one thing. I don't remember the names, but like there are a few. If you guys search it. It's very easy. It doesn't take too much time. There are some Indian organizations, and then there are a few international organizations, like country-based, which offer assistance to international students coming in, partnerships with them. So you might not see every organization in every university. It varies, like there are combinations. So they again offer the scholarship based on your like total profile, as I said. So GRE score, then your academic, your co-curricular, some universities consider that. Then yes, a major part is cover letter. I forgot to mention that. I remembered just now. Cover letter is really important because it's not just a chronological explanation of a resume. Please don't do that. It's how you showcase your skills, what you learned from your resume, because resume has a word limit. So cover letter is your chance to shine. Cover letter, etc. Then, so these are direct funding open. These are scholarship opportunities, but these come with their limitations. So like some Indian organizations might ask you to sign a contract of like you have to come back after exams, whatever. So proceed at your own risk or
Okay.
your priorities. Then there are GRA and TA opportunities. GT, like they are called GRA GTA. So basically they are RA ship and TA ship as an RNST. They are again focused on your profile. I think these are the two major funding opportunities. And they are again based on the overall profile.
Okay, so I guess there are pros and cons of many of these funding opportunities, and they look for a wide variety, like your whole profile and your scores and your experience as well. Okay. So coming forward to our last question, I'd like to know uh, more from you about the process of admission after we clear GRE, and I think we can sum it up in it. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So after GRE, like after you have done with all the exams like GRE, IITs or TOEFL, whatever, then you have to prepare a cover letter. You have to get your letter of recommendations. Some university ask for two, some university ask for three. I would recommend going with three. Actually, go with four professors and take combinations of three with universities because that's better. Because okay, there's a very key point there. If you are trying to get work or if you're trying to work with a professor here and his or her research work aligns with the professor in our insti, try to get their letter of recommendations. That's a huge point. The other point is, um, if you have worked with all of them, great. Mata diya. If you have not worked with all of them, please try to get as much LOR from professors who you have worked with, who can attest to your abilities, who can attest to your resume. Because if you have worked with all of them, he showed this kind of skills, he showed this kind of abilities, initiative, etc. I strongly believe the second LOR weighs much more than the first part. So don't hesitate reaching out to professors who you had just course project, but if the professor really good, which I believe they are in our insti, so they might give you a good LOR. And then of course, if you're not working research, then go ahead and take LOR from professors who you took classes with, at least a few, so they can attest to their abilities. And then after LOR and cover letter is, um, should I explain about cover letter briefly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, briefly.
So it's like some people write just explain their resume. So if they have listed the bullet points in the resume, they just go through explaining each of them. Please don't do that. They are already reading your resume. They don't need another copy of that. They know how to read and understand your resume. So try to showcase what you learned from the project. How did you approach this? What were your major challenges in the project and how did you overcome them? And what were your lessons? And how does that connect with what you're trying to pursue? That's the major thing which people miss. So every project should feel like that's in line with your major. That's in line with what you want to pursue here. So connect that. And if you have to leave out a few projects, do that. That doesn't matter. You don't need to show off. You show off you flexed in your resume. You don't do that in cover letter. And another thing is, um, mention your co-curriculars, mention your life outside of a CATS, which a resume or a transcript doesn't do that. Try to do that. Research experience. I think that's what constitutes a good cover letter. Okay. And then evaluate resume. So I think December 15 was the deadline in our time. Not our time, just 3 years ago. 3 years ago, the admission deadline for fall admissions was December 15th. Like it varies, but a broad, like a rough timeline I would like to give is if you are completing GRE in October, mid-October, and if you are giving IELTS or TOEFL in end of October. So these exams also take time to give you back the results. So if you get the results in November, then I believe November should be spent in getting the LORs, working on your cover letter, working on the applications, because that, believe me, that needs time to prepare the package and then start applying. And the other thing which I would mention is some universities have rolling admissions, some universities don't have them. Rolling admissions are those admissions where as the applications come in, they process them. So if you apply earlier, you have good chances. So please try to note down which universities have rolling admissions, prioritize them. But if universities are following a deadline, so then it doesn't matter if you're applying on December 14th, 11 p.m. Don't do that. Please don't do that. December 14th, 11 p.m. or December 1st, it doesn't matter. They will start reviewing applications after December 15th. So yeah, that's also a key consideration.
Okay, so I think you covered all the important aspects of the admission process and the things that are required, like your LORs and your CVs. So most of our audience is the freshers, but
Okay.
uh, I hope they'll take away important advice from this and start working on these aspects from early stages. So we also mentioned about the how about building a good profile also helps. So I think you covered those points in the process as well. So uh, so that's about it from the questions from our side, and I feel uh, it was very informative, and will will like now like to open the floor for the audience questions. So you all can share your questions and raise hands. And
Please come one by one.
okay, yeah, okay, Ravi, yes, please.
Yeah, hi Garvit, am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, so as you mentioned that some universities have waived off GRE or are in the process of doing that. So how exactly is the selection procedure for those? Does it, huh,
Good question. And I'm sorry I missed that part. So if they are not considering GRE, then basically they try to increase the weightage of every other component. So cover letters, your resume, your LORs. IELTS and TOEFL is just a basic. Okay, I would like to clarify this. This is just an English language requirement. So if you are above a threshold, you are good to go. It doesn't matter that if you get a 9 in IELTS or a 7 in IELTS. So please don't memorize too much English for that. But apart from that, it's not anything else. Yeah, that's an academic transcript, of course. How can I miss that? Yeah, academic transcripts. So these are the few factors which basically they increase the weightage of them. They don't substitute GRE.
okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, Akshat has raised hand.
Uh, Hi, am I audible?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask how much GPA matters in the selection process. First, like if I build an overall average profile, then how would
Mhm.
GPA matters? Like, and how to convert our CPA into GPA to get an estimate of what are we having?
Good question. And it shows I'm doing this for the first time. I missed this again. Okay. So you don't convert CPI to GPA. That's the job of admissions committee. And please don't get scared by seeing the 3.5 minimum requirement. That varies. So if someone is coming from tier 2 or tier 3 colleges, though their 9 is not equal to tier 1 college's 9. I won't say our college 9 because that sounds weird. tier 1 college is 9. So that's their approach. That's their task to do. I would recommend, like, just like we sit for placements, we have a minimum CPA of like 7 or 7.5. I don't remember exactly, but try to do that. So if you are exceeding that CPA, I think you should take a shot. It's their job to convert that, and please don't feel discouraged about the numbers on their portal. Another thing, you asked about how much does GPA matter. It varies very widely across universities. Some universities place a huge emphasis on GPA. Some universities just don't care as long as you are above a threshold. So again, that's just, and I'm sorry to say, but there's no database or there's no like league where I could find where I found such information that which universities places more emphasis. It's just based on like, okay, that guy got selected, he had low GPA, so that means that university doesn't care about GPA. But that might also mean that his or her research perfectly aligned with what they were looking for. So take that into consideration. I would recommend going. That's why we apply to 10 or 12 universities. So to increase our odds. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I had one more question. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I heard that applying early in some universities helps in your selection chances. And if so, then what is the best time to apply?
Okay, so I think that ties in with what I said earlier about rolling admissions versus, okay, I don't know the correct term for that. I will go with deadline admissions. So if the admissions are on a rolling basis, that means the universities are processing your applications as they receive them. So I think people start applying by mid-October, 1st October if they are very ambitious. Or so like it's just as early as you can if you're preparing along with your cats to start early as possible if they are rolling admissions. But I don't think a lot of good universities or a lot of universities I had reviewed had rolling admissions. This is more applicable to UK, Canada, and all those countries. Deadline admissions, it doesn't matter. As I said, it doesn't matter. They have deadline so suppose they have a deadline at December 15, then they won't consider application if you even applied in October. They would start reviewing after December 15 after getting all the applications. And they don't stack the applications in the order they receive. It's random. They recover all the applications. So don't worry about the going very early for them. I would recommend working on a profile, improving that, and applying with the your best attempt.
Thank you.
Hello, Garvit. Am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just wanted to say that studying in the US is costly. So, how did you manage with your expenses?
Okay. I think Harshal brought that up earlier. It was about funding opportunities. So, like there are scholarships in India and US, and they consider your overall profile, but mostly GRE and your CPI in a cover letter, how impressive you were in cover letter. Apart from that, there are GRE GT opportunities, which are much easier to get. So I would recommend taking that into consideration, indicating that in your cover letter that I am open to working with this professor for research skills. That basically translates to GRA. Like I don't think people work for free in research here. They are paid. So I should not have said that. So GRA is a good opportunity. GTA is usually easy to get if you're in computer science or like those disciplines which have huge classes, like 150, 200 students. So they require at least 10, 15 TAs. There's a good shot at them. And one more thing I would comment is that so it's a very obvious thing, but we forget that. I forgot that. So if you get admissions from 5 universities and one of them is like top university, that they might not offer funding that much as compared to a university which is comparatively low in rankings, your rankings, but they might offer a better funding. So there's a trade-off there. So that also is your call when you're applying. I hope that
How should we choose among those universities which you gave an example right now?
Oh, it's a personal preference. Like if you got into a really great like MIT or like I don't know Stanford or whatever, like whichever one is higher ranked in your field, and you really want to go that way, then you might have to sacrifice on funding. But if you believe that funding funding is important for people, so then you might go for that university. Another thing I would note here is private versus public. So public universities have usually low fees. Private universities have very high fees, like almost 1.5 times. So take that into consideration. So like, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to know if anyone has any more questions they'd like to ask.
People didn't sleep.
Because I think we have covered most of the questions. There are a few more questions in the chat.
Okay.
I feel, about the scholarships and the admission process, but I feel we've already covered those in our questionnaire as well. So I think that sums it up. So I believe we are on. So we'll just wait for 1 more minute if someone has any more questions or they'd like to ask. Then maybe we can finish up the session. Okay, I believe that's it. So thank you so much, Garvit. I'd like to thank you from the whole team of SARC for taking out your valuable time and that too at a weekend for taking up this talk session on GRE. And I believe your insights were really valuable and helpful for the students who want to take admissions and prepare for examinations and apply for universities abroad. And yeah, so once again, thank you so much for taking up this session.
I'm happy to be here, and yeah, it's my pleasure, totally my pleasure. And please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. I would gladly help you if I can.
So
Good luck to
I hope.
everyone.
So it was really great talking to you, and I believe we'll be having more such interactions in the future as well. Maybe when we are planning to have more sessions like these. So we'll surely reach out to you for future as well.
Sure, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.